Hey guys, I'm Marcus Buff Bagwell, and today we're going to talk about the controversial topic of steroids in professional wrestling. Man, this goes back to high school for me. We're talking 1986. You know, I'm 16 years old and I think I've never even heard the word steroids. There was no steroid really. There was no internet. There wasn't any cell phones, so you didn't really know. There weren't computers. So steroids was something that you fairly rarely heard about. So didn't know hardly anything about them. But from a very young age, I was very self-conscious about being skinny. I was a very skinny kid. I remember in middle school. So middle school would have been, 12, 12, 13, 14, 11, 12, 13, 11, 12, 13 years old, middle school, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. I remember being so skinny that I wore long johns under my jeans to make my jeans tighter. That's how self-conscious I was. I failed PE, physical education, because I didn't want to dress out and let the kids see me have long johns under my jeans and try to explain why I'm wearing long johns in the middle of the summer with hot weather outside in Marietta, Georgia. It was crazy. I was embarrassed, but I did it a lot. I wore long johns and shirts. I would wear long sleeves, and I'm sure I wore short sleeves. I remember at that junction, I was really more embarrassed about my legs. I think every kid my age was skinny up top, but I was real skinny on my legs. My legs were very thin, so I was very self-conscious about it. So with shorts and things like that, it really bothered me. And to this day, it still does. I still feel like that. But at 14, I'm a freshman in high school, and I remember, still it really bothering me being real skinny, but the long john thing is over because now you're in high school and you can't hide that anymore. So it was try to find the perfect jean that didn't make your legs look skinny, but extremely self-conscious still is going on. Well, my sophomore year, I can't quite remember who set it up for me, but through a friend, through a brother, I had two older brothers. My oldest brother got into bodybuilding, and I told him, I said, I'm tired of being skinny. So through either my parents or my brother, again, this wasn't frowned upon yet. This was something that was pharmaceutical. You could, pharmaceutical grade, get testosterone, and pharmaceutical grades, you could get DECA. And that was two of the safest drugs out there and two of the only drugs out there. So my experimentation with this started with, the very first started with an oral, and it was Dianabol, and they came in 5 milligram tablets. I would bet my life that 80% of men, 100% of men that are in a gym, that have been in a gym more than 5 times in their life, have taken a drug called Dianabol. It was a very easy drug to get. It was an oral. It increased your appetite. It was muscle growth. It was 100% a steroid. Dianabol was the first steroid I took, and I gained a little weight. But I remember right when I started that, they decided, hey, let's give you some testosterone and some DECA. So the summer break of my sophomore year, I got out of high school. I got out of my 10th grade year. And so going into summer break before my junior year, I took Dianabol, Tess, and DECA. And I gained 30 pounds in 3 months. So that's a big deal. That's a lot of weight. So when you're 145 pounds and you come back 175, I don't know how many people out there have gained 30 pounds in 3 months, but if you do that, believe it or not, you don't see it. You don't know it. But when I came back to school and was walking down the hall, people were like, "Oh my God, what did you do?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? I just worked out, man. I wasn't even ready for the questions." But of course I lied and said, "I just worked out, man. I just trained real hard and I took this Vitapack," is what I told everybody. So all my coaches were loving on me. They were at football practice, they'd be rolling my sleeves up. At baseball practice, I used to hit the baseball with my shirt off. All the coaches were loving it until the 2020 special came out later that year of high school kids and steroids. And everybody was like, and I'm like, well, what are you looking at me for? So, of course, I still lied about it because it was a time that you just didn't want to be. I'm extremely transparent, obviously, today and have been for years. But it wasn't a time to be transparent about this back then. So I, of course, lied and hid it. My closest friends knew. And a couple of my close friends did it with me. But how I told everybody my story, I learned to fix it. On my drug addiction, if I was tired, I fixed it and took something to get awake. If it was time to go to bed, I took something to go to sleep. If it was a pain, I took something to fix it. I learned to fix everything, which was a bad thing, but all of a sudden, I've learned how to fix being skinny. And I gained that 30 pounds and I am sold. So I go on a journey of I'm going to be not a pro bodybuilder, but I want to have a big muscled up body was my plan. Well, instantly, mat wrestling is off the grid because of high school. Off the grid because you got to lose weight to be competitive with wrestling. So wasn't going to wrestle, no way. Baseball, you could still play baseball and take steroids, but if you gained weight, you didn't throw the ball as good. So it did hurt me there a little bit, and the coaches didn't want you to work out with weights when you were playing baseball. So I'd always have to hide in the gym from Coach Cadenhead. He'd go pulling around the gym, and I'd be hiding in the gym because I was going to have muscles. That was my goal. That was my love. That was my passion. Was after that summer break, when I saw what I could do, I was sold. I was all in. And so it hurt my baseball career tremendously because of my throwing arm. But I played first base like Mark McGuire and like Canseco. I learned to play another position and was a really good batter. Football, steroids doesn't hurt you as bad, but it did make me tear my hamstring. I didn't know steroids were so new that people didn't know the side effects of them yet. Like, forget the liver and bad things. The mild side effects were you're getting muscled up and your tendons become tight. And if you don't stretch your body out, then you could tear something. My junior year, I tore what's called my ischial tuberosity. Look it up online. That's exactly what it's called. Again, your ischial tuberosity. Your ischial tuberosity is on your back of your leg. You have 3 hamstrings that come up. From your calf to your buttocks, you got 3 hamstrings. Those 3 hamstrings tie into a bone right underneath your butt called the ischial tuberosity. That bone ripped off my pelvis. And when we went to the doctor with it, he looked at the x-ray and he goes, "It looks like you got too big too fast." And me and my father looked at each other like, what is it? Really? That's exactly what we did. But we didn't know, so that it ruined my football career. But it didn't ruin my baseball career. I had a great baseball season and 2 years of baseball. And I'm still doing what I want to do, which is I had no idea it was going to lead me to pro wrestling. I didn't care. I wanted to feel comfortable in my skin, and I was on the path to being a muscled up person. on that path, 1988, my parents go broke. So I was going to be a muscled up guy that ran a lumber company for my parents. Instead, I was a muscled up guy that's parents went broke. So at 18, I'm, 185, 190, and I go to the Atlanta School of Massage for a career. My parents paid $10,000 for it. It was a 10-month course. And from there, I was going to do some kind of sports training or some other kind of degree, but that was the best, quickest, money coming in instantly type of career I could set out for. And again, could still work out, train, and be a physically fit, chiropractor / massage therapist / sports medicine. And that's what I did. So 6-7 months into that of the massage therapy world is the story you guys have heard. But if you haven't, I'm at the pool depressed because women are not wanting to get massaged by me. They are very insecure about getting massages. So I was having a difficult time with this 1.5 year long thing that I've tried called massage therapy. And it's looking like it's not panning out. No matter what career or business you choose, if you don't have both male and female population, you're not going to be successful. In pro wrestling, if all the guys cheer you and all the girls don't, you're not going to be 100% successful. And vice versa, you're not going to be 100% successful. If McDonald's, only men eat McDonald's and women don't, you're not going to be successful. In every walk of life, you've got to have both men and women to be successful. So I only had men. Women were not wanting to be massaged by me. So in the middle of that debacle, I'm at the pool depressed one day. Missy Hyatt sees me and I get into pro wrestling. And what do you know? Me being in shape and me being muscled up, look what's happened. Wow, I think I found something that goes together. And if it was meant to be. So I continued on my path of trying to be a pro wrestler and continued on my path that I want to be muscled up. And here you go with Buff Bagwell. So now you got to figure from 18 years old, you got to figure, how do you get these? Even at 16, it was my brothers helped me, and you could get a doctor to write some scripts for you early that it was legal, and then all of a sudden you couldn't get doctors to write it for you anymore. My parents had money, so we could get a lot of things done that most families couldn't. So at 19, it became a little harder, and then 20, you had to get this word of mouth. Hey, where do you get this? And somebody's friend had it, and was it real or not? And you had to check and make sure. Back then, you had to make sure was it the lot number on there, and you had to see if the lot number was on it, then it was real. And there was ways to see if it was real or not by the way the bottle and the packaging looked. But I went down this black road of drugs to do something that made me happy, which was I wanted to be muscled up. I wanted to have muscles. I wanted to be in shape. Now there's more to it. Now I want to be a pro wrestler. Going in with that, you had to find them, and you were scared. Where were you going to get them? So it was definitely black market. Somebody had to find that you trusted and you didn't get arrested. This is now illegal. It's illegal to purchase steroids, but again, I'm all in. I don't know what a pain pill is. I don't know what a soma is. Putting a beer or liquor to my mouth was unheard of. I didn't do any of that. I was taking steroids, and I was going to take steroids. I was very scared about them. So at a very young age, even at 20 years old, I was still taking the same thing, which was Tess and Deca. And then it got to be a new drug called water-based testosterone. And I experimented with that, and you experimented with a drug called Winstrol. And all of these drugs, again, there's no cell phones. There's no internet. You can't Google University Idiot because there isn't no Google. You got to word of mouth. You got to ask humans and wonder, how to take it and throw crap against the wall and see if it sticks. So I did so, and it stuck because I would look better and look better and get bigger and stronger, and so it got to be just my way of life. I was going to do this. So everybody around me, again, the catch is I didn't want to hurt myself. So I ain't gonna say nobody didn't do this, but I know a lot of the guys didn't. I was going to get my labs done once every 2 months at least. I really was scared I was going to hurt myself. I didn't want to hurt myself. Again, remember, I'm not drinking, no drugs, I'm taking steroids, and I don't want to hurt myself. So I'd go get labs and make sure my liver count was okay and my kidney count and my heart. I'd get a full blood panel every 2 months, and to make sure I wasn't hurting myself. And I wasn't hurting myself, I'd go again with my cycle. And the cycle I would take, back then you would cycle. Like you go on a 6 to 8 week cycle and come off 6 to 8 weeks. Somewhere in that cycling, you would choose your drug, and the drugs again were Test, Deca, Equipoise, Winstrol, Anadrol 50 was an oral, Dianabol was an oral. There was one called Anavar that was very mild, and another very clean, what they call clean steroid. Cestadon came with preloads, which was a big thing. But that's about it. There wasn't any Masteron and Trenbolone and all these other 1,000 words. It was pretty basic. And really, bodybuilding is pretty basic because I can give you exactly what I took, and it don't mean you're going to look like me. You got to put the work in. And again, kind of like wrestling being fake, wrestlers hate hearing that because it isn't fake. And like taking steroids, you look like that. That ain't true. You can take all the steroids you want, and you may not look like me because you got to take and do what I do. And you got to dedicate that, and that's where a lot of people get confused. But if you do and do it the right way, I didn't have anything bad against it, and the people around me didn't see anything bad that would nullify me not doing this. So the cycle thing went from taking cycles to a doctor came in, and so what would happen when you cycled is you would get on a cycle and you'd come off and you'd lose, and you get on a cycle and you get a little bigger. It's like 10 steps forward, 5 steps back, 10 steps forward, 2 steps back. It was kind of like this with the cycling steroid world. Then a doctor came in and said, you know what? I think it's healthier than to spike it up and come off, spike it up and come off. He thought it would be better, and it made sense to me, that you get on a low dose of your choice, which mine was Test and Deca, or Test and Equipoise. You get on a low dose and you remain on year round. That made more sense to me. My numbers remained, my liver counts remained unelevated, kidney, no side effects, kept up with the lab like I always did, and I rode the testosterone, Equipoise testosterone, Deca, and Anadrol early on in my career of steroids. I rode that through the beginning of WCW, and then at WCW it was definitely, Test, Deca, Test, Equipoise, and that was it. There wasn't any growth hormone yet. There wasn't a word about it around. But at WCW, we had a policy, a drug policy. And, of course, they had random, drug testing, they called it, but random. Me, Lex Luger, Scott Steiner, all the guys that looked good, they of course thought we were on steroids, and I was, but I wasn't going to tell them. I got a, $500,000 contract, and I'm not even sure what the testing, if a positive test happened. I'm not even sure what the trouble was because it was so many years ago, but I do know if it was a couple, it was fired. Like Two Cold Scorpio got fired in 92 from cocaine. So it was one of those things you didn't want a negative test on you because it could at least make them look bad at you, So when it came time for testing, I had a guy that was clean that would pee for me in a cup. And this may sound easy, pee in a cup, go pour it in a cup. But it wasn't that easy. This guy had to pee in a cup, a specific cup. A cup that has like a hair dye bottle needle on the top. And you put a nail in that bottle. And he pees in the cup. Now you've got about 30 minutes before that's not warm enough to pass the test. So he's got to urinate. He's got to get it to you. You got to put it in your bottle, keep it up against you. Now you got to go in front of the doctor and do this transition, and it's got to have to be the right temperature, or the whole thing's been wasted. So I'm doing this. I get the bottle. I do the transfer. I go inside. Now the last trick is you've got to tell the doctor to turn the water on. So to turn the water on, the noise of the bottle, when you release it, you hear the air suck back. So you can't have him hear that. So he turns the water on to block that sound out. So the transfer is getting made. They're standing right here. If they were looking in front, I'm out of a job. And so I'm doing the transfer over, making sure I don't drop it, all that. Any of that stuff happens, my career could be over. So very, very nervous, crazy, anxiety. I give the bottle to him, and now you don't know, period. If they call you, if they don't call you, good news. But there was never like a thing that you could know right away. So you were tortured with this all the time. And so your options were to go through that and look like I looked for Monday Night Nitro in WCW, or not look as good as I looked and be clean. I chose the other way. I wanted to look different. I wanted to have a better body, and using steroids was my choice, and I think it was a good one. Keep in mind, testosterone was a steroid back then. Now I take testosterone, and that's called TRT, testosterone replacement treatment. So it's not called steroids anymore. Everybody that I know is on TRT, and they don't dog it out anymore. But 25 years ago, you'd have been taking steroids. So it's all what you think about it. Everybody's got their opinions. My opinion is I have zero regrets from it. It didn't do anything to cause any problems in my life. I've not seen a side effect that had bothered me. Took a couple years out of my football game. Big deal. It made a wonderful career in wrestling. If it wasn't for steroids, I would have missed that entire run of WCW, NWO, and everything. Everything I just told you, if I didn't do it exactly the way I did it, I would have not made that run and looked as good as I looked for WCW. I have zero regrets. There has been zero repercussions from it, and I feel great. I'm proud for what I've done. I got no problem talking about it. I'm transparent about it. It is what it is. I'm not going to say I didn't do it, because I did do it. But I did it right, and I did it as right as any person could take steroids. I took them correctly, and I was very safe about it. So that is my take on my life with steroids in it. Thank you. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button to stay in the loop for all future videos. And if you're interested in cool NWO shirts, like this one right here or other wrestling sports merch, click the link at the top of your screen or in the description of this video to jump over to Fanatics and place your order today.